Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Steve Hernandez, and I'm the Executive Director of the Legislature's Nonpartisan Commission on Women, Children, Seniors, Equity, and Opportunity. Welcome to our friends from Facebook Live and our friends who may be seeing this in a rebroadcast today. We have a very special virtual town hall meeting that we have organized called the Raise Your Voice Campaign, Youth Experiences During COVID-19. For so many months now, we've been thinking about how it is that we organize as a state and how we organize as a people in a series of communities to really help come together in the time of crisis. And one of the things that we've been thinking about is how it is that we help young people manage and navigate these difficult times. What's really interesting and what we often forget is that they are navigating these times as well as they can, and they do it in creative, thoughtful, and interesting ways. And they have a voice and they have a lot to say. So today what we've organized is an opportunity for some of those young people to express what they have experienced in the last few months, including some of the hopes and aspirations that they have as individuals. So without anything further, I'd like to turn over the mic to my co-host and friend, Emilio Estrella. Welcome, Emilio. I want to say that we are also joined by State Representative Bobby Sanchez, who after a long night of leadership is joining us today, and he will be staying with us throughout the experience to give some reflection at the end of what we all hear together. So welcome, Emilio. Tell us a little bit about the process and why we're all here today.
So thank you so much, Steve, and thank you so much for the platform. So as we know, 2020 became the year of COVID-19, the pandemic, the shutdown, and the effects that we're all feeling affected our friends, our families, our jobs, our schools. And this is especially true of young people who have overnight seen their world change and their formative years cast into uncertainty. So we decided to do this project because while there have been efforts by government agencies, community organizations, and just a lot of great work happening around the state, we found that there was one conversation that we didn't see a lot of and that we wanted to have. We weren't engaging directly with the youth. And so we weren't getting their thoughts, their worries, and their feelings about the pandemic and about how they've been dealing with the last few months. So when considering something so altering to their lives and to the lives of all of us around the United States, we wanted to capture some of these stories. And so we decided to create a project around the state that would capture these stories in a very simple way. So, we ask our young people to be civically engaged, and we ask them to be civically educated. And so this is a great opportunity for us to educate ourselves about their thoughts and engage them directly in the process. So we did it by reaching out to dozens of organizations around the state that work directly with youth. We worked with the Center for Latino Progress, the Urban League, Ballheads in Meriden, and a myriad of others to connect with young people ages 12 through 21 and just hear what they had to say. We asked a very simple question: how has COVID affected your life? We said, in your own words, share whatever you want to share, whatever you want your representatives to hear. And so we compiled these letters and met with many of the writers, a few of them who are here with us today, so that they can share those letters with us. So I hope we can learn a lot from them and that we consider their side as we move forward. There's a lot of work yet to be done, and it's really important to remain engaged with the people that are going to be feeling the effects of the decisions that are being made. So that's enough talking from me. So I want to hear from them, and we're going to begin with Jackson Mitchell. So Jackson, could you read us your letter?
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Jackson Mitchell. I'm 15 years old, and I'm a sophomore attending Platt High School. The COVID pandemic has caused many changes in many lives, both positive and negative. Though I didn't feel like things were that bad, I still had to adjust to many different circumstances, both in school and in my personal life. I'll first talk about my negative experiences. Many aspects of my life changed significantly since COVID hit our lives. Let's start off by saying that it's almost impossible to take a music class online without using the actual instruments. I'm in a band and I play percussion. My music teacher would give us homework assignments and ask us to research certain music pieces and take a test. I really didn't enjoy that at all. I really loved music class, but I didn't enjoy the changes my teacher had to make because of the pandemic. I really missed a lot of my teachers, but I missed my math teacher the most, Mr. Laskowski. I enjoyed the way he taught the subject, and he made math come to life. Before that, math was really boring to me. I was no longer able to physically be in his class, which changed the experiences that we were able to have with him in person. Another negative aspect of COVID was to change of my schedule. Since I no longer had to get up at a certain time, like I did when I physically had to go to school, I wasn't on a set schedule. I would go to sleep and wake up even later. Sometimes I would log in to do my schoolwork after 1 p.m. and then would have to stay on the computer all day. A few times I even skipped the whole day just because I was being lazy. All of these different circumstances affected me and caused most of my grades to drop severely. Before COVID started, I was a B average student. Due to all the changes I was trying to adjust to, I was getting C's and D's. My personal life also changed because of the pandemic. Due to COVID, my family vacation to Hawaii was canceled. I was really looking forward to this trip because we were going to see my aunt who was in the Air Force and just had a baby. The thing that affected me the most was the fact that I couldn't work in the summer. I was looking forward to my summer job as a camp counselor at my dad's youth camp. Last year, I worked during the summer and was able to buy my own school clothes and school supplies, which took a huge burden off my parents. Not being able to earn money this year was very tough for me. Even though there were many negative experiences since COVID, there were also some positive experiences as well. First of all, since I no longer had to wake up so early to go to school, I was much more relaxed and I was happier. I was able to go on daily bike rides and hiking trips with my brother and mother. I was able to hang out around my family and play a lot of board games that we didn't usually play because we were so busy. I was I was I was able to enjoy a lot more home cooked styled meals. And now I even wanted to become a chef to even better my skill. Since I wasn't able to work in the summer, I was able to visit my grandfather and uncle in Tampa, Florida for over a month. When I was there, we went to the pool daily and really enjoyed life to the fullest. I even played on some of the nicest golf courses in Florida with my grandfather. During this time, I even played more golf than I have ever in my life. I go out to the golf course at least once or twice every week, every 2 weeks with my dad and my brother, and we are really starting to enjoy the game. I have two friends that I speak to often, and this pandemic has affected both of them very differently. One friend hates school with the hybrid model, which is 1 day on and 1 day off. He started this year the same exact way that he ended last year, struggling. He has 4 Fs right now. My other friend is enjoying school and does 100% online. He has all A's so far this year. He likes the fact that he can get his assignments all online and has all day to complete them. He's doing very well in this type of learning module. As for me, I started off this year similarly to how last year ended. I'm getting behind in my classwork due to procrastination on my part. Trying to practice in a band twice a week from 6 to 9 p.m. and getting all my assignments completed has been a challenge for me. This way of attending school is challenging for me because I do not see it as real school. It is hard for me to get mentally prepared for hybrid learning. My parents just got me a tutor, and I will be starting to work with this person next week. Hopefully, they will give me the strategies I need and motivate me to improve even with the hybrid model. I do not want to continue struggling like I did last year, and I see where my weaknesses and my strengths are. I have to learn how to manage my time better. I am not putting schoolwork off until later, like I used to do. This pandemic came out of nowhere, and it had me scrambling and looking for answers to confusion that this entire year has brought. However, I think I am now finally fully prepared and ready to tackle whatever life throws at me. Thank you.
Thank Thank you so much for sharing that, Jackson. So next, Buso Jane, one of our students, was unable to make it here today, but she did record her reading ahead of time. So I'm going to share my screen now, and hopefully we can hear in her words her own letter. So one quick second here.
Dear General Assembly, my name is Buso Jane. I'm 14 years old, and I'm a freshman at Sport and Medical Sciences Academy in Hartford. I'd like to share some of the challenges and personal difficulties that this pandemic has put me through. The biggest was having to participate in online learning. It was difficult for me to keep up with the work because my teachers assigned twice the amount of work we usually do. It was hard for me because I'm more of a visual learner, so I couldn't focus as much and get my best work since I'm not in an actual classroom. For example, it wouldn't be right in front of the board, or whenever I had a question, it took hours and sometimes even days for my teachers to respond to my emails. I also feel that the state debates on whether or not students will continue in person. I think that it is important to consider the resources students will need and still do not have. For example, some of my friends do not have access to computers at home and are forced to attend school via phone. If I had some struggles even with my access to technology, I can't imagine what they're going through. So this may tempt us to just say, let's all go to school in person. But if we go back to school in person, they should consider the use of masks and social distancing better, because currently it's really annoying and it feels like everything just takes longer. Another way I was affected by this virus was that the virus had a huge impact on my family and I. One of my family members passed due to the virus, and it has wrecked my emotions and affected my mental health. I have felt so many emotions, some of them I can't even express or fathom how I felt and how I'm still feeling. I've never seen my family this way, and I hope I never have to experience this ever again. I'm sure there are others out there feeling like this, and I hope you consider all of us when creating rules to protect us. It does, however, disappoint me how people have not and still aren't taking this threat seriously. If a law is passed, they need to enforce it. If people are not abiding by these laws, they need to do something about it. For example, if someone were to rob a store, they would get arrested. So why, if they threaten someone's life with ignorance, there are no consequences? I understand that there are a lot of good intentions and feelings around this pandemic, but I feel that we need to see some action. Recently, I've been going to school in person. It has not been that bad so far, but I feel that they should be more strict with the students and being socially distant. I think that it shouldn't be difficult for me to have my own space while I'm walking through the halls to my next class. It may not be that bad as it used to be before this pandemic, but it still shouldn't be this bad. We also received new Chromebooks, but some of the prices for repairs and replacements, I feel, don't make any sense. For example, the staff in my school have told us that the students replacing a charger is over $200. Ever since the pandemic started, families have been struggling financially, so I think that people do not realize how much these prices could add to their problems if any of these things were to happen. A couple of my friends doing online learning have also told me that they have been struggling with school as well because they receive so much work and their schedules for the Google Meets are confusing and overall pretty inconsistent. Thank you for taking the time to read about my struggles during this pandemic, and I hope that you do take some of my ideas into consideration. Sincerely, Buso Jane.
Thank you very much to Buso, wherever she is. I'd like to move on next to Valerie Eaton.
All right. Hi, everyone. All right. So my name is Valerie. I'm 16 years old and I live in East Hartford, Connecticut. COVID has affected us all in different ways, but my own experience, I had unexpected positive benefits from it. The virus postponed my junior year of high school. I know many around the country have felt like me. I'm sorry, can I repeat that part? The virus postponed my junior year of high school. I know many around the country, like me, have felt this pandemic press the pause button on their formative and most important years. And for me, it led me to look within myself. For my first thought when COVID took away school was, what am I supposed to do with all this time? COVID completely broke all routine, and the only consistent activity in my schedule was my job as an animal rescue worker. Having this constant thing in my schedule helped me stay grounded and helped me be a bit more focused. With all this extra time and not having to worry about school, which was a big worry for me, I actually noticed that I became more motivated and had an internal boost to plan for my future. I hadn't really had the time or the desire to think about my future, but I suddenly had the time to do some introspection. I took action and talked with a coworker and someone who inspires me to reach higher, how they got to the point they are now. COVID showed me that we are all kind of in the same boat and that there was no time like the present to ask these people in my life how they got to the point they are now. After some good conversations, I gained a new perspective and was encouraged about how I thought, felt, and what I wanted to do for myself and my future. I've decided to take the necessary steps to obtain my diploma and make sure I finish strong. There will be challenges ahead, but I have a newfound drive to get it done. Just as important, I decided that I want to continue to practice my love of photography as a hobby. Photography has always been a passion of mine, and in a sense, it helps me communicate with the outside world. My art means a lot to me, and COVID has helped me see that. My ultimate plan is to go to school for business. I haven't really decided which kind, but I'm inspired to go on this journey and figure that out. Despite the hardships and the negatives that have come out of this pandemic, I'm glad that the time has been allotted for me to ponder these major questions. One entire life can never be planned from beginning to end, but I don't think I would be as wise about my future without this time to reflect. COVID has been an awakening, and it has put things into perspective for me. I hope that others out there have been able to find. I'm sorry, I cut off the end of the thing. I hope that others out there have been able to at least find some light in these dark times. I found my light to keep going. I hope that these thoughts help you in considering measures for COVID. People my age right now are idle, and while some of us have been lucky enough to have guidance in their use in this time for positive growth, there are others out there who might be lost. I hope we can help them find their way. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Valerie.
Thank you.
So I'd like to move on next to Styles.
Hello, I'm Styles Mitchell. I'm 14 years old, and I go to Xavier High School in Middletown, Connecticut. Over the past few months, I've learned a lot about myself and others because of the COVID pandemic. Some of these things were good, some bad, but all were learning experiences. The pandemic took me out of school, affected my sports season and training opportunities, and affected my plans to work this summer. I didn't envision my year to look this way. We were supposed to go to Hawaii and see my aunt who was stationed out there, but COVID changed our plans. We had to make changes to nearly every aspect of our lives. But through it all, I've learned how to persevere. When schools closed down in March, it was very sudden and I couldn't see any of my friends. This really hurt because it was my final year of middle school. My 8th grade trips and the dance I've been waiting for since arriving in middle school were taken from me. My participation in sports changed as well. This was my final year in middle school, and the entire track season was canceled. I really enjoyed running, as it kept me in shape during the football and basketball off season. In the fall, I will be attending Xavier High School, and I have learned that my football season will be shortened due to the virus. My coach also told me that neither my parents nor friends are allowed to come to our games. As far as working out and training for sports, I had to train out of my house and in my basement with the little equipment that I had. I've also been lucky enough to work out with personal trainers who had their own gyms. However, these gyms were shut down as well. Another negative effect of COVID was that it ruined my plans to work this summer. My father runs his own summer camp, and after turning 14 in April, I was finally going to be able to make some money working with him in the camp. I have been looking forward to this opportunity because I remember my brother being able to experience the same opportunity. Then in June, we found out the camp would not be able to run this year. And I was sad because I was not going to be able to have this same experience. I thought I was going to be able to make some money to help with the cost of tuition and books for the upcoming freshman year. And now I could not because of all the changes that this pandemic has caused. Even though there was a lot of negatives surrounding COVID, it wasn't all bad. I was able to tutor a couple kids and I was able to make money for their service. I also won a small scholarship for being in the National Junior Honor Society. I was blessed to be able to spend more time with my family. I picked up the game of golf with my brother and father, but this year I had never played golf. Before this year, I had never played golf, and now I love it. My mother and I went on daily bike rides and stayed active throughout the pandemic. I was able to help my dad in the community with different projects and with his organization, Ballheads, for which I am a youth advisor. Together, we did many different activities and were involved in many different projects, such as dropping off summer take-home kits to families and cleaning downtown Meriden to keep Meriden beautiful and even during this pandemic. My grandmother taught me how to cook pancakes, and now it's my favorite thing to cook. I spoke with a couple of my friends about their experience and how COVID has affected them. Online school for them was challenging, and they say it was difficult to pay attention and focus on their classes while being at home. They started to get lazy due to not being able to go anywhere or leave the house. All these things changed. All the changes that the pandemic caused ended up disrupting their sleep schedule. They weren't able to travel anywhere and weren't able to see family or friends, which caused for a bad situation to get worse. Eventually, football was canceled altogether, and that affected both of us because it was our first year in high school, being able to play football. We were really looking forward to this for this new adventure in our lives. As for me, I was able to change from online school to in person at my new high school. When school first started, I was attending school online because I hurt myself training for the upcoming football season. During one of the sessions, I tore my ACL and meniscus, which required surgery. It has been 2.5 weeks since then, since I had my surgery, and I am now physically back in school 5 days a week, and I'm feeling much better. I am rehabbing my knee by going to physical therapy, and now I'm just waiting for my time to come back, to get back on the field and show everybody what I'm capable of. Because football season was canceled due to all the previous events, I'm not missing any games. However, I am missing practices, which I love to be a part of. As far as schoolwork goes, fortunately, it has not been a problem for me, and I am excelling in that area. That the school that I am missing out, the class that I'm missing out on most is physical education. Throughout the difficult time, the most important lesson that I've learned is that a great interruption can lead to a greater introduction. I've learned a lot about myself, my strengths, and my weaknesses. And going forward, I'm going to become a better man because of this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Styles. I think it's so interesting. You know, yourself and your brother are both on this call. You both live in the same house, and yet you had very different experiences when it came to adapting to school. So maybe we'll get to talk a little bit more about that. So next, I'd like to hear from you, Jennifer.
Okay. So, hi, good evening. I hope that you have enjoyed hearing all of these amazing statements that just truly show how I've been feeling, throughout such a hard and crazy time at such a young age. And with that said, hello, my name is Jennifer Urbano. I'm 15 years old, a sophomore attending Great Path Academy at Manchester Community College. And I'm absolutely positive that you're all aware that COVID-19 has for sure affected a lot of people within the past months. It has taken the lives of many, caused people to lose their jobs and their homes, as well as losing the world that we were so used to, the world that we now refer to as back then when things were normal. For me, it was no different. As much as I didn't want to, I had to face multiple hard obstacles in a span of just months, and everything I thought that I knew was changing, and it was changing fast. In the past, I have had a lot of troubles regarding my mental health, and throughout this time I experienced a lot of anxiety, and like many other people, I just feared that my loved ones and the people in my life would soon be hurt by this atrocious virus, and I fear that I myself would fall victim to this virus that would only spread like wildfire. And yes, although this time was very hard for me, I'm honestly glad that I went through it, because this time has made me rethink everything I thought I knew, including myself. I have learned so much about myself in these past months. Throughout this time, my patience has been tested, as well as my motivation, and my mental health and emotional health was just pushed to a point where I denied who I was and felt hopeless that my life would never go back to normal. And I used to sit in my room and think of all the times where things were normal, the days that I claimed I hated so much, and the moments with my friends, and the weeks that I just took for granted. And most importantly, the world where the thousands and millions of people that were killed in these past months were still here. And yes, it was a pretty challenging time, but it has helped me grow and become a better person because of it. And I truly believe that I have a different mindset now, where I now know both my strengths and my weaknesses, and that I can now see the world for what it truly is. And soon enough, I realized that although it may sound scary and a little sad, I realized that my world would never and will never be the same, which is good and bad. Good because this generation will be ready for whatever the world throws at them, and bad because we're living in such a crazy and unforeseeable time where no one knows if it's going to get better or if it's going to get worse. So I remember when we were still attending school in person and things weren't that bad in the United States. I was telling my friends how I felt a little scared about this whole virus situation, and they proceeded to tell me that I shouldn't be scared because it was, quote, just like the flu, and how I was crazy and how I was overreacting because it didn't seem serious enough to worry about. And to this day, I still remember that specific moment from my science class, and had we known how bad it was going to get, maybe we would have taken it more seriously. So as I continued my days full with worry and people constantly opposing what I had to say, I soon realized that I hit the nail on the head when our school announced that it would be closing indefinitely, which soon enough led to us learning online. I, like many of my peers, had a hard time getting used to learning online, and were constantly frustrated by teachers not exactly having the proper resources or the training to know how to teach class online. And this caused us to lose a lot of motivation, where we used to think that this learning was pointless, and sometimes we didn't even bother going to class or finishing up our work. I was lucky enough to gather my motivation and end the year with good grades, but I can't say the same about those who didn't even have access to the internet or to a computer, which left them to do it on their phones. And I know this is a fact because many of my friends and peers were forced to do their schoolwork on their phones, and some actually still are. It's not really fair to them, and it's not being addressed strongly enough. So school started this semester, and we're still learning online. Some teachers have gotten a little better on how to use these online platforms, but my lack of motivation still remains the same. And I actually remember on the first day of school, the day just felt so odd. And the thought that I would have to sit in front of my computer every day for the rest of the semester just completely frazzled me. And I'm not exactly sure what it would take to get more motivated, but school was hard enough without adding the stress of uncertainty. So my point in this is that I ask that you find a way and make it a priority to make sure that low-income families and students have access to a good and stable internet and a functioning computer to complete any and all assignments. I know that this is something that would for sure help those who don't yet feel comfortable and safe with going back to class in person and would rather not take that risk and just stick to online learning. And I know that there's a way to give that access to those who don't have it. I myself am so fortunate to have that access to both, but know that I'm the exception and not the rule. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. Thank you. And Elisa.
Hello, nice to meet you. My name is Elisa Estrella. I am 18 years old. I graduated from Southwestern High School and I'm currently attending Manchester Community College. And I hope so far you've enjoyed all of our experiences. Well, not enjoyed, but heard us at least. All right, so March 13th, 2020, the day my senior year came to an abrupt end. They told us we would be back in just 2 weeks. 10 weeks turned to months, and by then it was time for graduation. I never realized how much high school mattered to me, and it made me wish that I had done more while I could have. I wish someone would have told me about this pandemic so I could have joined the track team like I always wanted to. I could have joined the club. I could have taken a chorus class to surprise my mom, who always wanted me to sing. So many things that I did, but I couldn't. These thoughts haunted me a month into the pandemic, but I stopped myself and remind myself that I should still count my blessings. My family is healthy and my friends are healthy. However, both me and my brother lost our jobs, and although we didn't struggle to put food on the table, we lost opportunities for advancements that no time can ever bring back. I know my story is the exception, not the rule. That said, my parents live in a different country and they worry enough as it is. The news about how our country is handling the pandemic really impacted them. They worried that my brother and I would be exposed and they wouldn't be able to do anything about it. For the first few weeks of the pandemic, I saw how much my teachers struggled to transition to online schooling. A lot of them had to redo all their course materials since it couldn't be done in person. And a lot of the projects, group projects and field trips I was excited about were canceled. On top of that, they had to care for their own kids and family, which is no easy task. The amount of time they helped us succeed in our studies, the amount of time they spent to help us succeed in our studies is something I will forever be grateful for. I do not blame teachers for the decline in our standard of education. But I am disappointed that we rushed into this transition when there really was no need. We knew this was coming months ago. It wasn't until the first month of quarantine that it started to dawn on me that we weren't going back to school. I realized that my senior year was over and I wouldn't have a graduation ceremony, something I had been looking forward to my whole life. It took a toll on my mental health. I had no motivation to do schoolwork. It didn't matter to me despite my family's efforts to push me. Isolation wasn't helping either. A lot of my friends began feeling helpless like me and stopped communicating. Playing video games wasn't fun anymore. And going outside was terrifying and I had no one to talk to. After months of isolation, I decided to reach out to some of my friends. A lot of them opened up about how much this pandemic is affecting us, and it made me realize that I wasn't alone. We started talking more and slowly started pushing each other to finish our schoolwork. I contacted my teachers so I could try to make up some of the missed work, and they were more than glad to help out. Even though the graduation ceremony wasn't what I wanted it to be, I got my diploma, and I guess that's all that matters. We jokingly say I am the first person in my family to graduate in a car, but I sincerely hope my class is the first and last ever to be forced to do this. We worked our whole lives towards this one goal, only to have it reduced to a drive-through. So when you enact laws to combat these effects, please consider mental health. I was never a person that felt like I needed a lot of mental health counseling or anything like that. But this pandemic has forced me and millions my age to come to terms with our vulnerability. Consider that even those of us who had access to technology and know how to navigate online learning still suffered from lack of motivation and depression. I'm currently taking my first year of college, and once again, I feel like I'm missing out. I have small in-person classes, but most are online, which again, doesn't help our motivation. Feels like COVID is always slowing things down and keeping us worried about what's going to happen next. What if there is a second wave? Will we go online again? Will they cancel school again? Will we ever go back to normal? Or will this be our new normal? I know we don't have these answers, but I hope you will consider these thoughts when you address this. We need strong leadership and informed answers to these tough questions. In the meantime, I will continue to do my best for myself, and my friends. We are all survivors, and we have to keep going. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Elisa. And thank you all very much for sharing.
Thank you, Emilio. You know, I'm kind of speechless, and I'm speechless because there is resonance, and of course there is your individual experiences, and firstly, there's that sense of loss. I think that each of you and all of us, each of us has lost something through this experience. And whether it's a family member, an opportunity to connect, an opportunity to finish what we started, or to begin something exciting and new that we were expecting to do, we've lost something. But there's something really remarkable in each of your voices, and that is what you've gained as well. There is a depth, there's a maturity, there's a real sense of introspection, and the way in which you have been able to take this moment and re-envision yourselves and your future is incredibly powerful. And what's really interesting is that we invited you here to share with us your perspectives and communicate them to leaders. And what's interesting is that whenever I hear your voices, your experiences, your impatience, and how it is that you learn and process, I would gladly turn over the reins of leadership to you. So I will really appreciate everything that you've communicated with us today and everything that you've shared. I know we're going to come back to questions, but I want to welcome one of my favorite leaders at the legislature, Representative Bobby Sanchez. Welcome, Representative.
Welcome, Steve. Thank you so much again for the invite and for this important panel. I was taking notes. As everyone spoke, I took notes. And I want to thank Jackson, Uso, Valerie, Stiles, Jennifer, and Alyssa for your stories. Thank you for sharing that. We need to hear more from our students. The legislature really needs to hear more from you. We get bombarded constantly with emails from people about every other problem that there is out there. Very seldom do we hear from students and about what they're going through. And some key points that I wrote down, and one of the biggest ones was mental health. Absolutely, it's something that we need to put more funding and moving forward, and something that we're going to have to talk with the Commissioner of Education. And I'm sure that he, in some conversations that I've had with him, we talk a lot about social and emotional learning and mental health. So I mean, it's coming. It's been very slow though. I understand that it's been a problem. And the other thing is, we have spent quite a bit of dollars that have come in from the federal government to be able to put laptops or Chromebooks in the hands of students And we still have students that don't have them because orders have been coming in at a very slow pace, which is, to me, it's very alarming because we know that students have lost a lot of their education studies and school ever since March of this year. And someone had mentioned, I think it was Alyssa who mentioned about a second round of COVID. And we anticipate that that's what's going to happen, that there will be a second round. How bad will it get? We don't know. We do know that we left many of these decisions to our local school districts to come up with, how they were going to open up their schools, if it was going to be a hybrid model, if it was going to be remote learning or so forth. And I've been getting quite a bit of either compliments or complaints from many sides about how some things are not working. Many people have complained that hybrid model is not working. Others have said that they would like to see the schools open 5 days a week. Others have said that not every student is wearing a mask in school, and how can that be enforced? And many parents have called me and said, why aren't they taking temperatures as they walk in through the doors? So, I mean, there's so many things that we're learning and we're sharing with SDE. And I'm so grateful that I was able to have this time and to listen to the students, because that's more important to me. 2 years ago, we put together the Black and Puerto Rican Studies Bill. And I was amazed that during public participation, we had hundreds of students come in to participate during that public hearing. And that's what we want. We want to hear from you. Because after all, you're the ones that are in the classroom and you're the ones that are learning this material. And we need to know more whether it's something that's good for you or bad for you. But thank you so much. I mean, I took all these notes down. And I'm hoping that, I don't know if Emilio or Stephen have the actual drafts, if students have written them and sent them in. If they did, please email those to me. I'm very eager to share those with the whole education committee on both sides, because it doesn't matter who is from what party. It's what's important is that education is important, and we need to do our best to fund it and to find solutions to all these issues that are happening, particularly now during COVID. So thank you again for giving me this opportunity, and I'm eager to hear if you have some questions, and hear more about you. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Sanchez. I have a question for our young people, because I've really been curious about this. Throughout this experience as adults, we are very seldomly audited. We never really ask what you think about how we're doing. And I'd love to hear from whomever wants to respond, perhaps an observation about an adult in your life, an observation about adults more generally, how you think we're doing right now in terms of our response, in terms of how it is that we're supporting each other and you. And really anybody can answer this question.
Stephen, can I also add to that? I'd like to hear from them how they feel that the governor and the Commissioner of Education have been handling this pandemic, if possible.
Don't jump all in at once. I know that, Elisa, I know that you and I had a conversation a little bit about this, and so I'd like to hear your thoughts, but I would like to share very quickly that Buso and I actually were contemplating this question yesterday, and because I if you recall her letter, she spoke directly about accountability. And that was something that she was very passionate about, especially having lost a family member. And so I remember that I told her, I agree with you that there should be accountability. So what would you do? And she said, honestly, I would just put some concrete action behind the good intentions. She said, I hear everybody wishing me well and saying you're going to do great and all of this other stuff, but I don't see anybody saying this is what we're going to do if people don't take the measures, or this is. And so she felt very strongly about accountability. And I know that if she were here, she would want to share that.
Thank you, Emilio. Elisa, do you want to share, to put you on the spot? How do you think we're doing?
Well, I certainly do believe that it's a difficult situation and everybody's trying their best. But I do believe that, like Buso had mentioned, is that the adults who are not, wearing masks and being irresponsible should receive some sort of, not punishment, but there should be consequences as to when you put somebody else in danger. You can't just let that person just run around not wearing a mask, putting everybody in danger. There should be some consequences. So far at my school, they have taken, Manchester Community College, they are taking really good measures. Everybody's wearing masks. If somebody's not wearing mask or is refusing to wear it, they are told to leave the premises. They're not allowed into the school. And I do believe that we are all trying our best, but I do think that we should do more. I'm not sure exactly what else we could do, but there should be more action being taken to help us out.
Thank you, Elisa. Jackson, you mentioned your math teacher. Tell us more about what you miss about some of those important adults in your educational experience.
I really miss them just because I really liked our physical connection with each other from teacher to student. Because, like, I didn't get to mention my science teacher, Mr. Valentin. He's like a pop culture guy. He liked Star Wars. He played Nintendo. Like, I felt like that was a good connection between both of us. And I like learning the subject. We were learning about astronomy, space stuff. But I miss like the physical connection of just being there with the teacher instead of like reading an email or a message the teacher said to us. It's very different because I like listening to someone speak it to me personally than just them sending off something to everyone in class. So yeah, I really enjoy physically being in school.
Thank you, Jackson.
Thank you.
Jennifer, yes, go ahead, Bobby.
I'm just curious, with the show of hands, or if you'd like to respond to this, but let's say, if the state of Connecticut tomorrow decides, okay, we're not going to let the local Board of Eds make any more decisions. We're going to give this, we're going to say every student has to go back to school 5 days a week. We're going to put in all kinds of precautionary measures, mask, hand sanitizers, taking temperatures. How many of you would agree to that? And how many would you disagree that we need to go back full force into the school? So how many of you agree to that? Okay. And how many of you would rather have remote learning or a hybrid system? Let's talk about hybrid. Okay, remote learning. Okay. It's interesting because I'm trying to get, talking to so many different individuals throughout the state. I'm getting, you get mixed answers. Not many people want to go back full force. Others want to stay home and just do online learning. So I'm just curious to see, and please share that. You can send an email to us and share your thoughts on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Bobby. It was so compelling for me to hear the difference in the experience between Stiles and Jackson. So I want to come back to that in a little bit. But Jennifer, I'm wondering, A lot of the work that we do at the commission is really focused around social and emotional well-being and supports, especially because we understand that often that is one of the pillars of the educational experience that we don't really focus on enough. What are the conditions? How do you feel throughout the day? Are you ready? Are you in a space where you're able to learn? So if you feel comfortable telling us a little bit more about how you have been able to find supports in some of the ways that you've been feeling throughout this experience, and in fact, what you would recommend to other young people who might be going through these experiences.
Sure, I would love to share on that. So, throughout the beginning of this whole quarantine thing, I found myself just really isolated, and I truly felt like I was all by myself with this and that I didn't have anybody to depend on. But in reality, I had so many people that I could depend on. I had a lot of people that I could share my experiences with. And, I just think that to those who are also having trouble with their mental health and just feel all alone during this time, just if you can, and if you have the confidence and the motivation to do it, then reach out to someone, because there is one person who you can just talk to, and I promise in the moment, it does not feel like it will be worth it, but at the end of the day, you will just feel so much more better. And I know that because of personal experience, and other people as well have told me that exact thing. Or if not, just try to, how do I say this? Just try to find something that gets your mind off of it, because I myself, like I said earlier, I felt that I was alone and stuff. And I tried to always take my mind off of it, and it really worked. And I didn't think that it would work, because I thought that this whole type of emotional and mental state that I was in was just gonna take over my mind and my life. But in fact, it worked. And now I have turned to so many great hobbies and things that I know truly make me happy and have helped me find out who I actually am. And I'm not pretending to be someone I'm not. And I'm not, how do I say it? Now I know who I truly am because of this experience. And so I definitely feel like those are the two things that you could do. But that's just my opinion. So
that's really powerful, Jennifer. And I'll tell you, what I hear is kind of a thread throughout what some of you have said, is that transformative moment. And Valerie, you talked about how it was that there were a couple of things that really gelled for you, just like for Jennifer. And one of them was your appreciation for your art and for your artistic expression. Tell us a little bit more about that. What has that allowed for you during these times?
Well, I used to be into photography when I was a child, but I kind of just gave it a break and whatever. But I actually have a camera right underneath me, and I took it out when the coronavirus hit, and I used to go in my backyard and stuff. Like, I'm talking about used to, like right when the virus hit. I don't know why I'm saying used to, but yeah, so I started taking out my camera. I have a neighbor. We social distantly did some photo shoots. I made an Instagram for it. I don't know. I just started really enjoying it like I used to, and it felt like a passion type thing. I don't know. I just really, really started enjoying it again. And yeah, that's how I feel about that.
That's awesome. Jackson, you talked about the fact that you missed your opportunity for artistic expression and how that had changed. Tell us a little bit more about that. Have you been able to find ways to reconnect with your art, even though you are distant from from your in-school environment?
Since I wasn't able to go to band anymore, my dad actually hooked me up with a session in a recording studio for beat making, and he taught me how to like make my own music personally. And he also got my sister's boyfriend with me, and we both were doing a music group together. I was writing. I've been writing a lot since when I was in Florida. I wrote quite almost every day, just to see what happens. So I tried to keep my artistic flow going, but recently with schools has it, it's kind of dimming down slightly. But I'm trying to get it back into the groove.
That's awesome. And one thing that I find about artistic expression, you all are probably too young to remember this, but there have been times in our nation's history that you know about, I'm sure, where there has been amazing loss. One of them is 9/11. The other one is Sandy Hook. And through each of those experiences, we found that young people wanted to talk about it. They wanted to express themselves through music, through poetry, through writing, through dance. So I really appreciate that you've really highlighted that, the expressive need, because there are a lot of young people listening out there who may feel like they don't have a voice, but they really do, whether it's through an instrument or whether it's through technology. It is a really powerful way to kind of let out some of those thoughts and feelings. Styles, I really would love to hear, your advice on how it is that you thrive in this constantly changing environment, especially when some of the things that you hold near and dear have been interrupted. You're still thriving, and you've found a way to find your way. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Okay, so like when school first got closed, it was tough. It was tough to change and stuff like that. But it was always okay for me because I was able to do my work, and I was fine. I was okay with being home, but in school. And now that we come back to now where I wasn't able to, I was hurt and stuff like that. It's like, wait a minute, I froze real quick. What was your question again?
I was so inspired by how it is that you were able to kind of take the moment and continue to thrive no matter what. So how are you finding success? Give us some advice.
I don't know, like since especially I've got hurt, it's been down a lot. Like it's hard. I go to school 5 days a week, so it's hard, especially me hurt. I have to walk around crutches all day. It's just like, I don't know, it's really nothing has to like nothing has to like really push me to nothing. I'm able to do it to myself. I'm self-motivated. I'm able to push myself, but like just the support from my family and stuff like that really helps a lot. And I was able to push through it, surgery and everything. Now I'm back on my feet and it's ready to go.
That's awesome. Thank you, Styles. And finally, Elisa, Styles mentioned family and that support network, and you described your situation of you and your brother and how it feels to be far away from your family. I know a thing or two about that. So tell us how you have found a support system, despite the fact that you're so far away from the people that you love.
So yeah, it was, it's a little bit hard sometimes, but my family and I keep contact all the time. We call each other. My dad calls me like almost every day. We talk a lot, and I mostly was able to push myself because at first I was very depressed because I had recently moved out to go to high school in Connecticut from Puerto Rico, and I was just kind of a mess, to be honest. I didn't know what I was doing, but my aunt, I was living with her for a while, looked out for me a lot, and I was able to make friends who I consider my family now, and they really supported me the entire time. And I honestly think that if you're going through hard times because you moved out and it's a whole new world, just go outside. Well, not now, but because we're in a pandemic, but usually I would say go outside, push yourself, break out of that shell. You can do it. make new friends, go out there and meet new people, because it's wonderful to make friends and have somebody to communicate with all the time. So yeah, that's how I dealt with it.
That's awesome, Elisa. I just want to, one more time, as we come up to the end of our time together, I really just want to thank you, each of you, one more time. You know, there's something really, really powerful, and you may not get this yet, or you may get it 100%, but telling your stories is life-saving. And I don't mean for you, I mean for somebody who's listening, whose lives you've touched by telling your story, and by the way you said, Jennifer, by letting them know that they're not alone. That is incredibly powerful, and it's life-saving work. And you've done that today. So I want to appreciate each and every one of you, Emilio and Werner and my colleagues. Thank you so much for bringing us together. Let's keep doing this, because I have a feeling that for each and every one of you, there's a ton of each and every one of yous out there who we need to hear from. So to your point, Representative Bobby Sanchez, I now turn it over to Emilio for our closing. And again, have a good night, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Stephen, and thank you again, guys, for sharing your letters and sharing your experiences. Just like these guys, there are hundreds of letters that we received, literally. Like I think we got 240 letters or something like that from around the state. And reading each one, I think the most fascinating thing is how we survive, and how each of us, you know, how each of us have looked at this challenge and faced it in our own way. And I will be taking each of those letters. We have asked everybody to provide their zip code of where they live, and we were going to send those letters to their representatives so that they can hear from you all directly. So I just really want to appreciate those of you that are here, but also those of you that sent letters in that are not here with us today. Your letters will be read, your voices will be heard. And I encourage those of you that were not able to send a letter this time around to reach out to us, because the mailbox is always open, and we will make sure that your representatives hear your voice, and that your stories make the difference that they should and will make. So thank you very much for being here with us today and listening to our youth.
Great. Thank you to our friends in Facebook Live, and have a good night, everyone.